All right, Paco. Welcome back. Another week is gone.
Well, I prefer to say that a new one is starting.
A new one is starting. Exactly.
I don't. I prefer not to think about a countdown
That's
to the
true.
fucking hole.
I love it. But a lot happened in the past week. That's something we can state for sure. I mean, look at this PKM market, or how we call it, PKM niche. It's going
Yeah,
crazy there, right?
there are new angel investors there in the radar.
Yeah. So let's talk about these things. Let's start with the big elephant in the room. And it's not Evernote, it
No.
is Tana. It seems officially yesterday it went live, and Tana is now available for everybody, including Ali Abdaal.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. So,
Yeah.
what is that reason?
Well, the reason it's that it seems that he has become an investor. I don't know how much money he put on the table, but well, it seems that the Tana crew is quite happy. So, well, we'll see. We'll
We
see
see.
if this money accelerates the things.
Yeah, it's always a difficult bet that you do by investing in a tool. You're also removing the flexibility to move to other tools and recommend other things. And that's why we are conscious about these. As you know, we try to kill our tool stack every day, but we haven't been able to do so for more than a year now. Since Heptabase came into our life and Tana, then afterwards, we've been using it. And well, then if you follow the paperless movement and you've been previous live sessions with us, you have seen that I was on a mission to kill it yet again,
A
to
one and
kill
only
yet
mission.
again the tool stack, and wanted to simplify things. I was on a mission to try to kill it, and the goal was here to really see if it is possible to live without Tana in the PKM area, and even without Reader in the beginning. So that was very quickly that I realized it's impossible to use just Heptabase for everything, and you get bombarded with the outer world with all the information, and it's nonsense to add all this information to Heptabase. And if you don't have a place where to place it, then you very quickly realize this friction. Once you understand the different buckets things have to go to, you immediately miss the tool that does the job. And that's what many people don't realize in the first place. They always have the feeling, well, I want to capture this, where do I place it, and things like that. But it was the perfect setup. So Reader was very quickly from Readwise coming back. And again, there was another news last week where we saw that they leveled up their game as well when it comes to AI and how you can leverage the highlights and things like that. But then I published a video talking about Heptabase and that you can do it all in Heptabase, and it is still the case. You can do. You might be not ready to have another tool on a tool stack. Who knows? You really have to know when you hit that ceiling. On the other hand, that's still ongoing, but well, I can give you already some future conclusion. It's also impossible to kill Sansama. I tried it, Sansama and Todoist. So Todoist I never killed. I used it only for my personal tasks. So I kept using Todoist for this. So my private tasks. Sansama I removed from the system as well because ClickUp showed huge changes for personal task management, but also for planning and the integration of the calendar and things like that. And the only way to use this would be to have a very simple use case for yourself where you live only in ClickUp. So the moment you have another project management tool, this is already out of question that you need to have something like Sansama to consolidate everything into one place. But this being said, at this current state, ClickUp, it's far too buggy, and I cannot rely on the calendar integration right now, as this is doing random things. But at the same time, whenever I looked back into Sansama and I opened it every now and then, it just gives me an immediate feel of calm. This small list of things in one place that I need to manage. Whereas I know when I go to ClickUp, there's everything. And when I go to Todoist, there's everything. So it needs to be in one place. See, there we go. So it is already at the minimum the setup as we have. And the Sansama is the planner application. ClickUp is not there to replace this. And Todoist, I need to have quickly capture tasks. That's also something I realized again. That might be something for debate.
No surprise, because I have the minimum tool stack possible for the current situation and daily life that we are facing. It's impossible at the moment, and that's why we do these things, okay? Because these are experiments that we do on benefit of our dear members, okay, and followers to see what happens, okay? Because all these things and experiments hurt our productivity, but well, it is what it is. We need to force the things to see if we can even simplify more. So imagine the people who bet on just one tool for everything. Imagine the chaotic situation they live, or the amazing and simplistic life that they are living, okay? Because it's impossible to bet on just one tool to do all the different brain processes that we are constantly running, okay? For instance, here we see the struggle between using Heptabase versus Tana on shallow thinking. The beautiful thing about the outlining technique that is perfectly implemented on Tana and outliners is that the same way that you are writing and jotting things down, you are thinking unconsciously. That hierarchical tree that you are creating on the go, it helps you a lot to understand and quickly know what's going on. And the moment that you put volume into the equation, I mean, if you are constantly changing context, being interrupted, needing to write things down, it's impossible to go in a slow motion system like Heptabase is, that has been designed and thought for deep thinking. We need to understand that deep thinking and shallow thinking are complete separate processes, and we may try to include it in the same tool, but usually you need different tools, okay? In my case, I always say the same. I can force much more Tana into deep thinking because I use Tana for a lot of deep thinking, because for me, outlining, it's something that it needs to become really messy or a depth of thinking that it's amazing, and then I need to move to visuals or even long text format that I need to move to Heptabase, but I develop a lot of deep thinking on Tana. The point is that I cannot do that shallow thinking and shallow approach on Heptabase, so if I would have to sacrifice something, I would sacrifice Heptabase and bet on a visual tool like Miro the moment that I need, for instance, to use visuals to enhance my feeling, no matter that I know that I will suffer, okay? Because the perfect combination of visual plus long text formats on Heptabase, it's amazing, okay? And it's something that I would miss. But well, it seems that both projects are quite solid. Talking about Tana, now with new investors, plus Heptabase that they say since we met them, I think it was 1 year ago, 2 years ago, I cannot remember, that they were perfectly backed by not only venture capital, but bootstrapping, okay, because that's a tool that has been bootstrapped since the beginning. And well, here they are, okay, 2 years and a half later, they keep delivering, they keep improving the tool, and it's amazing, super solid, no glitches, no strange and bizarre things, and really, really amazing what these guys are doing, and two amazing tools, of course, two amazing tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Heptabase going the route with the collaboration features. Let's see how Tana will evolve in this direction or not. The thing is, what we saw is big pushes in all our favorite tools.
Yeah.
Where we see huge, I mean, also ClickUp. I mean, besides the bugs and all the annoying glitches, where I still cannot understand how they can do this when they want to sell to big businesses and they have to rely on the data and accessibility. And when you create a task and it doesn't get created, or you need to keep reloading the screen to see changes appear after all these years, that's something I will keep complaining. But again, it's impossible to go to another tool. We keep looking at other tools. I look at, when I look at Asana, how clean and how everything is well thought through. But still, it is not flexible enough. And they really going down the road with the one tool for everything. And they made it for our communication system, something we never would have believed that ClickUp will be able to do with their chat system, that they kill Slack for us. But after using Slack for 7 years, hundreds of thousands of messages in there, we stopped using it. Obviously, we phased it out over months. and migrating to ClickUp to see if this is really solid enough. And we never looked back. We have all the automation. So now, why not? This can happen also for the planner, for example, as I mentioned. But there, it was too good to be true. And it's still, I think it will never work because we have a project management tool that is on ICOR. It is the business project management system, the business knowledge management system. This means you're there with your team. This is not a place where you manage your personal tasks. This is just not the place. It might be the personal task really related to this specific business in ClickUp, that you have a list where you have some things that you don't want to share with others and you want to keep track of. Yeah, then it's fine. But without syncing it to a planner application and get it together with all your other things that you have to do, it's really hard. It's really tough to make this work. And also with the calendar integration, promoting to, I mean, what they did, that's why I was so confident. And who knows, 1 year from now, where we are, they allowed you to add the tasks to the calendar several times, at least. So if I have something, they no longer change the due date when you change the planning of the task. And this is planning, that's something where I can plan out when I want to work on a task without affecting the due date when it needs to get done. And this was a huge obstacle in the beginning where whenever you synced it to the calendar, it messed up everything. Now you have the option there that it doesn't affect the due date. And that was a good move forward. But again, conclusion is here. It's impossible so far. And
I think that it will be quite impossible because I cannot see ClickUp for personal use. It's that talking about, there are moments because people criticize a lot context switching, but sometimes it's something that it's positive, okay? And when I move into my personal world, for me, changing to Sansama and playing there with the things by myself and my time instead of, keeping me inside the world of business, team, collaboration, and all that, for me, that context switching, and that's why we defend also the tool stack split it into different tools, because for me, I go into that mode, understanding for mode the type of brain process that I'm running, and I love switching from my email client to Tana to Heptabase to my 3 different project management, because I'm inside my different companies with each one of them. And I think that there are moments where context switching, it's something that it's not also positive but also useful, talking about productivity, okay? Because for me, just interacting all day long just with one tool, I think that it's first off boring, I would say, okay? I need to change and the type, and also that it's really difficult, no matter the type of graphical user interface that the tool uses, that you cannot see things from a different perspective. You can maybe see them, but you won't feel them like they represent a different thing. When I'm looking at the same task in Sansama, my approach is totally different because I change how I visually see the thing. And I think that that resonates a lot with how our brain works, that they need to relax to stop watching at the same thing, because we are talking about hours, and then that context switching give you different sensations, emotions, and feelings. And I think that's important.
It's also normalizing the things. If you have different tools where you have different action items, seeing them consolidated in one tool and having them represented in the same way makes it much easier to organize these as well. Just by the visual representation of different types of tools in one place, that makes a big change as well. And the context switching is huge. Yeah, that's something where people really underestimate. Also, if we look in the physical world again, this is something suggested for hundreds of years probably, where you have your specific desk, or you have your specific room where you have your workshop in there and you do nothing else in there but work. And you should never have a gaming PC the same thing as your working PC and things like that. And this applies to also the context switching in tools. The moment you go to one or the other, it should be clear what you're doing. And that's the key here. It should be clear what you need to do in each tool. Now, if you do the same thing in several tools, but to a different extent, this is the confusing thing that I was talking about, Heptabase versus Tana in this video, where it is unclear, or the latest video where we talked about that I just shared using Obsidian, Apple Notes, capacities, and all these things in combination. If you have no idea where to put down the notes and where to find it later on, that shows you that this is nonsense. You just have scattered information all over the place. It seems like you have an office that you use for work, and in the other rooms, you start building some half-baked offices as well. Maybe you buy another PC for another room, and in another room, there's a notebook lying around. That's how you could see this. You should focus on one office and make the best out of this. And maybe there needs to be another office that gives you superpowers in a specific work type that you need to do. So let's go quickly through the comments, as that's really interesting. Adrienne says, Tom, I went down the path with you. However, when living in an only Heptabase base wasn't working. I thought of Paco and thought that here must have been some method to his madness of sticking vigorously to Tana. Hence yesterday's sign up. Yeah, there we go. So that's exactly it. We just explained it, the thought process behind this, and clear conclusion. It's impossible to go even further down, and we kept trying to reduce the tool stack, and people still say, man, that's overkill, and you use so many different things. But if you really think sometimes about your own tool stack, is it really clear the different tools that you're using for? And if this is the case, you can scale this limitlessly, because you might have the need. And as we keep saying, we don't list all the tools on our ICOR framework, otherwise it would just become confusing, talking about journaling and other use cases. And Vincent says, haha, Tom, I actually did this week with Sansama, thinking I could do this, but I discovered a syncing bug. I have a ClickUp bug. Okay, I think it eventually will get there, but you're right, it's not there yet. See? Great that we are all aligned here. So we try to keep doing these things, but the informed decisions when you try this, that's the key. I mean, I was always conscious when I was doing this, and I was focused on the workflows that I were used to do in Tana. And I mentioned it since day one, right? There are workarounds. Maybe I have to take some more time, but the moment you're in hectic and you have to do a lot of things will crumble, and that shows the stability of a productivity system then.
Yes, and I would like to comment what John says, that he asks, back to separate shallow and deep thinking, we should never be confused between the processes and the tool we are using. Tom, no matter that he was using just Heptabase instead of Heptabase plus Tana, he was separating and splitting shallow and deep thinking, because those are thinking processes, okay? Thinking thoughts and processes that happens in our physical brains, okay? What he did was just using just one tool for both processes. And I think that that's important to differentiate always the brain processes and the tools that we use to implement those brain processes, okay, that can be
just
implemented.
Just in case if John meant it in a different way, like back to separate shallow and deep thinking into different tools, then again, yes. So shallow thinking is for me more in Tana than deep thinking in Heptabase. But as Paco mentioned, I did this in Heptabase as well. And for me, the journal in Heptabase, that's what I used a lot more than I used previously. Well, in fact, I didn't use the journal at all in Heptabase before switching from Tana to Heptabase. And this was my shallow thinking. I was writing down anything that came to mind, but I really suffered from connecting the dots very easily. And I always had to think about, okay, I have to create a card. And where does this card end up? It is in an, it's present. Whereas in Tana, you could argue it's the same. It's also somewhere there, but it is not so present. You always have the feeling in Heptabase, and that was already the issue with Notion in the past, that you have to be conscious about all the nodes that you create, where to place them, and that I need to have a specific place in mind where you place them. And for Tana, I can just keep writing down and adding and connecting, and I don't need to think about this. Maybe that's also important to keep in mind. Brain process power is a lot less in Tana for sure.
And I would like to move on, okay, because there has been a release that for me has dramatically changed my shallow thinking related to the outer world. Remember that the outer world, we can name it quickly like content created by others, okay? What we found on the internet, for instance, or in a book or whatever. It's things that we haven't generated directly coming from our own thoughts and this type of things. And it's the release of a feature named Chat with your headlights coming from Readwise that for me, well, it has been amazing, amazing. I've been enjoying the whole weekend with these new features because there are two of them that I will quickly like to, because I'm going to write an article. I'm inspired, okay, and I will quickly prepare an article to analyze this because it has dramatically improved my shallow thinking process related to the outer world, okay?
Yeah.
Why? Well, because it has covered all the things that I demand to my shallow thinking system related to the outer world. That is, I need to quickly capture information. That's something that I was doing without any problem. Okay, I cannot spend not even a second organizing those capture items. That was something that I was achieving by just simply tagging. Okay, and a tag represents a bucket in my thinking system, in my PKM system. I won't go further into the concepts because if I go, we will end up with 2 hours of podcast, okay? But the thing is that I was using, and still using, Reader, okay? My workflow is I capture the piece of content, I send it to Reader, I quickly tag it so that it gets linked to any of my buckets of my thinking system. Then inside Reader, I can highlight so that I send that highlight to Readwise. That is my space repetition system, okay? That allows me to constantly keep resurfacing that content so that I'm aware of that. But the thing is that with Chat with my highlights, because now I get the best out of my store content, okay? Because it's AI that creates new insights and perspective, new relations and links that I could have never imagined. Semantics appear. I mean, if you search for budget, you receive, pieces of content that contain cost, finances, euros, money, I don't know, no manual effort at all. I don't need to tag, to backlinking, to link to, I forget. I just, what I said I store noise, okay, and I receive signal, okay, because it's amazing how beautiful this is that this weekend, for instance, I start chatting with my highlights, okay, and it's amazing because the connections that AI creates within, because that's important, that's the context. It's at least I achieve it, okay. It was my private Google search or Perplexity, okay, search machine, that just because if we think about highlights is the distill, because let's think about the process and the workflow. I capture something, so that resonates with me. I highlight, so that's even a step further, talking about how I distill information, because if I highlight something is because I would like to remember that in the future. But the point is that it goes even beyond, because just of the all highlights that I got, it selects the connections and creates an output that really resonates with me, because it takes into account, for instance, the comments that I have done to each of the highlights, if that's the case, okay? And for me, this is literally mind-blowing, because now the FOMO, the fear of missing out, is completely out. I can capture like a beast, okay? I could have never said it before, based on our mental model or workflow in the ICOR methodology. And now I can retrieve with a sense that I can keep asking and receiving insights that I could have never done by myself, because it's impossible. I cannot remember all the things that I have stored. And this is amazing, amazing.
And I
man,
cannot tell you
shocked.
enough, Paco, how glad I am. And what a coincidence that we talked about recall in our recent podcast as the missing thing that we thought about Reader they should have, that, how they implement AI. You can just talk about the individual article. There's no connection. And boom, there we go. It really seems like we just have to think and believe into this and things will appear. That's something that humanity was always good in, always visualize things and things will appear. And this is amazing because it's exactly what I was referring to when I tested recall, but immediately canceled subscription. No need for this, because Reader is the missing link. And that's why we can end up this session with the conclusion for PKM at the Paperless Movement for Paco and me. and something that probably a lot of users will share with us, as we know, Heptabase, Tana, Reader, with no particular order, as they are individually as important for the individual types of information. That's the conclusion.
And Readwise, because
What
right
did I
now
say?
this
Sorry, what did I say?
reader only.
Well, I combine,
and
obviously, when
also
I
Readwise,
mentioned, when
okay?
I,
The
yeah,
combo.
yeah,
The combo,
combo,
because it's
obviously.
amazing. It's amazing. I always stated, because I'm with these guys since they started, I think it was 2017 or 2018 with Readwise, and then I was in the beta test.
Yeah.
I always stated the same, because it's a tool that I know a lot, and the database model and how they link the thing, it's amazing. The back end of this tool is amazing, and I love seeing things like that, because the second feature that it's important, it's also how they call it. They call it chat with your highlights, and the other one is other relevant highlights. Okay, and that's amazing, because you are checking a highlight, and there's a button there that says other relevant highlights, and you go there and quickly can go through highlights that AI has considered that has a relation with the current highlight that you are reading.
But
and
only your own.
Because
but only your own highlights.
Only my own. And that's the beautiful thing about that, because right now it makes even less sense to connect Reader and Readwise, in this case, Readwise, to your PKM system, because here, if you want to look for something, you go directly there and you start chatting, seeing the relationships without even tagging. You don't even need to tag to it. Does all the heavy lifting has been done by the AI, and that's why when we say that, because we have seen many implementations of AI in tools, and we see how they quickly implement the things without thinking, because here is the real added value. ChatGPT cannot compete with this at this moment, okay? At this moment, because here I have everything. It's my wall, my highlights, the things that resonated with me, the biggest, okay? And for me, this is important, because based on that context that is huge, being able to attack that database using AI and receiving amazing outputs, because the outputs are amazing. I have enjoyed a lot, and it's a way of growth. This is, again,
and there we go. This is where the advantage of highly focused tools come into play again. That's why ChatGPT won't be able to, for example, kill Reader in this regards, as I'm not sending my articles directly to ChatGPT, as I have many other use cases using ChatGPT for, and that's where it becomes really hard. And in this regards, Reader becomes a utility app in this moment when you start leveraging this. So you have a kickstart of your thought process when you want to dive deeper into something, leveraging the knowledge base inside Reader. So it's a core application, obviously, as everything is stored there long term. But now we have the missing piece. That was the thing where we said, well, we can always go to Reader and there's our shallow thoughts and we can have some start about a topic. But now it even helps you to get started and things appear that you never thought about or forgot already about. And that's really amazing. So yeah, what an exciting week this was. And let's see what we will see next week. Or during this week, let's say it this way. Adrian says, sounds cool. I'll have to check those features out for sure. Paco, you should check out my mind. Oh, Paco, you should check out my mind.
Yes.
Why don't you check out my mind, Paco? That's one of the tools that Paco is using for how many years? And it is not appearing on our ICOR framework.
Since the beginning, because these were the guys who bet on AI since the beginning, because they understood that when I capture something, I don't want to spend time in that shallow thinking process about organizing, tagging, and whatever. They were one of the first company I've ever known, combined with MEM, that started using the auto tagging and the retrieval process based on AI. And well, I keep using it, because one of the beautiful things about my mind, it's their graphical user interface, but also that they take into account the text within images. And that's amazing.
But that's important, Steve. That's the thing. You couldn't know if you haven't joined previous sessions, but since I know Paco, we talk about my mind as he's a heavy user of this. But now you mentioned my mind, it is the extension for your mind for a specific use case. That's the thing. You cannot say, instead of Reader, let's use my mind, it's much better. That is the wrong approach. There's a room and space for both applications next to each other. I don't have so much the use case for my mind as Paco has, but he uses both. There's no question that he will kill one over the other. And that's really important when you are in this position, that you know what you're using, and you can be sure that we usually know, well, we cannot know everything, but whenever there are any new tools or anything, we had a look at it at least on the landing page in order to decide already if it is worth looking deeper or not. But we will see. Everybody, time is over.
Yeah.
We will meet us next week again. Or if you're an ICOR Journey cohort member, we see us this Thursday. So catch you up there then. Have a good time.
See you guys. Thank you.